Okay, guys, we are in the shop again today. It's been a couple months since I did a lot of videos. I'm going to start trying to get them done on a regular basis here more often. So if you are just visiting my YouTube channel, thanks for stopping by. Today, we are going to be making this American flag cross right here. Pretty easy to make. I've been always wanting to make these crosses. I just haven't got around to it. And what I did was I looked at several YouTube videos, and there's a lot of woodworkers that do these crosses. And I wanted to see how they were doing them, and I wanted to see some parts of the video I didn't like, and then some of it I did like. So I just kind of compiled the things that I liked, and then come up with my own way of making the crosses. And this is what I came up with. There's a few things on here that I've done different than what I've seen on other videos. But basically, this is my way of doing the cross. They're great sellers if you're going to make a bunch to sell them, and they're just really easy to make. So we'll just get right into the video here. Before I go on, though, I want you to hit that subscribe button and ring that bell and give me a thumbs up if you like this video. I'm really trying to get to 1,000 subscribers. It's been a struggle, but I will get there. So let's get started with this project here. Now, one of the things I noticed, the type of wood that they're using to make this cross, I'm just using pine. Pine basically comes in 3 different categories. You know, you got the select pine. Now this is select pine right here. It's pretty expensive pine. There's absolutely no knots in it, no imperfections. It even feels like it's sanded. So when you buy it, it's real nice pine, and you don't have to work around the knots or the cracks. And then there's one step down would be the quality pine. I guess that's what they call it where I'm from, quality pine. And you can see the difference. If you look at the difference in these 2 boards here, you can see this is the quality pine and this is the select pine. The grain is there's a lot more grain on the quality pine, which is nice if you want the grain to show through. It is less expensive than this wood, but lumber nowadays is kind of expensive anyway. But this is what we're going to be using today. It's a quality pine. It does have knots in it. It does have imperfections in it and stuff. But we're going to sand this and make it look the best we can. You know, if you want to keep the cost down making these flags, you really don't want to use a real expensive type of wood. You want to keep the cost down the best you can. So we're going to be using this here, quality pine here for this. Now the first thing you're going to want to do is you got to cut the different lengths of this horizontal board and then the vertical board here. Now this is, I've made many of these crosses before, and here is a sample cross that I made. This is my template. This piece right here, the vertical piece, is 17 3/8 inches long by 4 inches wide. And then the horizontal piece is, I have it written here, it is 3 inches wide by 13 3/16. So if you're going to make more than one of these flags, I would suggest maybe make a template like this, because this will help you when you set up your chop saw. You can put this in, say, okay, I'm going to cut a bunch of these, and then you can do the same thing with this piece. And then when you set up your table saw for the width, you could put this in your fence and your blade, and you could set up your width real quick. There's no measuring with a tape measure. You got your sample. These particular crosses are put together with a lap joint where it's cut out right here on each board, and then it fits together, and then you glue it, and that creates the lap joint there. If you have a sample like this, it comes in handy when you want to measure out the distance and where you're going to cut this this joint. You don't have to use a tape measure. You can just lay that up against your board like this, and you can measure. So it's pretty handy to have a sample piece like this if you're going to make a whole bunch. If you're not going to make a whole bunch, just going to make one, you'll have to measure it out and do it like that. And we're going to do that today this way, just like if you're going to make one. So here I got my two boards here. This is going to be for my horizontal piece here. It's a 1x4, which is actually 3.5. And then I got a piece of pine here that I'm going to cut the length and width for my vertical piece. And so we're going to head over to the chop saw, get these cut to length, and then we're going to come back, and then I'm going to go to the table saw and cut these to width, and then we will continue on with the cross. Okay, we are at the chop saw here. First thing you're going to want to do is set your chop saw fence 13 3/16. Now I'm going to take my sample. Here's my sample cross right here. I'm just going to show you what is nice to have a sample like this. I'm just going to set that in there, bring my blade down, and hopefully you can see this. I'm moving my stop over here. I'm going to tighten it down. Now I have the distance that I need for my horizontal piece here. So we're going to cut that first. We'll put that in there and we'll cut that horizontal piece. Okay, and then we'll take this vertical piece, which is 17 3/8. So we'll set that at 17 3/8. And like I said, it is really nice to have this template like this, because if you're going to make a whole bunch of these, you don't have to really measure anything. You just put your template in there. So we're going to go ahead and cut this board here. Now you want to make sure when you grab your lumber, this piece has been cut on this edge, so it's a nice clean edge. This piece here has got the blue paint on it, and it's kind of rough. So when you cut your piece, cut that crappy part off right there, and then you'll have a nice board. Okay, so we have these pieces cut to the length that we need them. This will be for the vertical, and this chunk right here will be for the horizontal piece. So we're going to take these back over to the chop saw, and we're going to rip these down to the right widths. Okay, table saw. What you want to do is set your table saw up to 3 inches. That's going to be for your horizontal piece. And like I say, if you have your sample piece made, you can easily set that in there to create the width that you need. If you don't, it's 3 inches. You can measure it out if you want it. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to cut this one piece to 3 inches wide. Alright, so we have, this is our horizontal piece for the cross. Now what we're going to do is set the fence for our vertical width. And like I say, if you don't have you don't have a sample piece like this, you can just measure over 4 inches. It's 4 inches from your fence to your blade. That's how wide this piece is. So we're going to cut a piece of that. All right, so we have the 2 pieces cut for our cross. So we're going to head over to the workbench, and I'm going to show you how I laid out the lap joint for both of these. And we'll continue on. Okay, back at the workbench here. The next thing you're going to want to do is create this lap joint on these here pieces. And the measurement, so here's the vertical piece right here. The measurement from the top down is 5 inches from the top down. So what you can do is measure down 5 inches. Measure down 5 inches, make a mark. Take your square. Take your square here and draw a line across. Now that's 5 inches from the top down. And then this is going to be your cutout. What I usually do when I made my first one, I took my cross piece. I just laid it on the line right here. Straight as best I could do. And just drew a line across. Now I got my cutout piece right here. Now, I measured that to get these distance. 5 inches, and then I laid this on here and went, this is 3 inches, and drew a line. If you have a template, like I was saying, if you have this template piece made up, you can just take this board right here, and what I'm going to do first, so when you draw your lines across here, you're going to want to continue them lines around the edge. So just continue them lines around the edge, because you're going to need that when you get on the table saw to cut that out. Now I'm going to do it on both sides, and I'll explain why here in a second. Okay, so what I got, this is the top of my cross. Got my cutout area. I got my lines drawn around the edge. Now I did it on both edges, because if you want this to be the front of your cross, then you're going to use these lines. If you want this to be the front of your cross, then you're going to use these lines. So that's just something you can figure out as you go, depending on you. You might have something on you, a knot here, or something that you don't want on the front. So you just turn it around, you can use these lines. So we're going to use these lines right here. And what's going to happen is we're going to end up cutting that out and making that lap joint right there on that piece. For the piece on here, it's the same thing. Use my sample piece. If you have a sample piece, you can just lay that sample piece down like this and mark your lines. It is exactly, roughly right around 4 inches, or 4.5 inches on each edge. About 4.5 inches on each edge. If you would put this sample cross together here, and you measure, it's 4.5 inches from the edge to there. About 4.5 inches. Give or take maybe a 1/16 or something, you know, you get it the best you can, about 4.5 inches. So what I did was took my sample piece, and if you're going to make a whole bunch of these, just take your sample piece like that there and mark your lines. And then you can just take your square and draw them across. Now, I'm not going to do it on both sides because I know I'm going to use these lines right here. This will be the top face. This will set in my cross like this. So I'm going to end up coming up halfway and creating that lap joint right there. Once you got that laid out like that, we're going to head over to the table saw and I'll show you how I cut these lap joints out for this cross. Okay, at the table saw here, we are going to cut these lap joints for the cross. Now, we're using 3/4 inch lumber, so half of that is 3/8 of an inch, so you want to have your blade set at 3/8 of an inch. Now, I take my time doing this. You want to get this, and I'm using a flashlight because I can't see very good here, but I think I pretty much got that set at 3/8 of an inch. I got a piece of scrap wood right here. I'm going to run this across and we'll remeasure it again just to see if we got it set right. Okay, so here is my first cut. And what you can do, just take one of these steel rulers and put it in here and see if you got it set at 3/8. 1, 2, 3/8. I got to go a little deeper. Yeah, I got to go a little deeper on it, so I'm going to raise that blade up just a little bit. I'm going to make another cut here. Because you want this pretty exact. I think we're pretty good right there at 3/8. I don't know if you can see that or not, but we might be, we'll do a tab just a little bit more. You just want to make sure that you are at 3/8, and we're right on the money right there. So it should be pretty good when you do 3/8 on this piece. Each piece, it'll come together really good. So we got that table saw blade set. We'll tighten her up. Now we're going to start out with cutting this lap joint on this vertical piece. And the reason why, and like I said before, I put the lines on the edges because you're going to line that blade. Now on your blade, one tooth goes this way, one tooth goes that way. You want to make sure that you line your tooth up of your blade on the inside, the cutout, not on the outside. So that's what we're going to do there. We're just going to find the tooth that is going in that direction. And we're just going to line that blade up. Let me just move this camera a little bit here. We're just going to line that tooth up So it's right on the inside of that line. And we're going to make our first cut. You can see here, that's my first cut all the way across. Now we're going to make a cut on this side over here, because that'll determine our space that we're going to cut out. So I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to line that tooth up, but I'm going to use the other tooth pointing this direction. And line that up. You want to hold your board nice and tight. Now, you have your the area that you're going to cut from this cut to this cut. Now we're just going to run this across the table saw. We're going to keep on running it across, one blade width at a time, to notch that all out. I can set that on that blade, bring my miter up to it, and bring it back. Now what I'll do is I'll just keep on nudging my board over just a little bit each time as I saw it to cut that lap joint out. So we'll line it up to the cut. I'm just going to move it over just a little bit as I go. Alright, so this is the finished lap joint right here. You can see I got that cut out. And see how nice it is? All you see is the blade marks. It's really smooth in here, actually. There's really no cleanup or nothing. I like doing it that way. And it really don't take that long. So that is the one piece right here. And you can actually test it by taking your next piece and setting it in here. Now, I'm taking this piece and I'm putting this in here. It's a little short. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to run that blade across here just one more time just to get that to fit in there, because it's better to end up cutting it too small than too big. All I got to do now is just take my blade and run just a little bit off of that one edge. So I'll just take it and line it up here and there, and I'll just move it over just a little bit. Now it should sit right in there. Of course, we don't have the lap cut in this one, but that fits in there really nice. So now this piece right here is done. We're going to do the same thing on this piece right here. And we just line up that blade. We got our first cut. And another thing I want to mention, what's nice about cutting this and then cutting this line, because when you're running it through your saw and slowly nudging it over to cut this all out, you can see right where to stop because you got your other cut right here. You don't have to guess. So what we're going to do is line this up with the other blade pointing in the other direction. Somewhere right in there. And we'll make that cut. Now you have your two cuts. And we're going to do the same thing. I'll take this and I'll set that in that cut. Bring my miter up against there, bring it back, and I'm going to slowly nudge it over to cut that all out. Back and forth. Alright, so here we got this one notched out, nice and smooth, nothing to break away or chip away. This one took a little longer because it's wider. So now for the test, we're going to put these together and see how they work. Now, actually that's pretty good. I probably could have went a little deeper with my cut because you got a little bit of a lip right here, but that really don't matter. I could adjust my blade a little deeper and make this a little cut a little deeper on both of these so it sits a little flush. I think, but other than that, that's how you make your lap joint. If you want, you can go back and cut this and make this a little, raise your blade up a little bit, take a little bit more off all this, and it'll flip more flush. But that is pretty much the lap joint right there. We'll head back to the workbench and head out to the next step. Okay, got your lap joint cut. Everything fits good. There's a little bit of a ridge here like I say, you can always go back and adjust that if you want to get it a little more flush. If you're making a lot of these, I usually make about 10 of these at once, so I try to get my blade set just perfect. It might take 1 or 2 tries, but then after that, I can go to town and make 10, 15 of these and never have to worry about adjusting it. So this looks pretty good here. Next step is we're going to sand all these parts, the front and back, kind of soften up the edges here, sand it. I'm using 120 sandpaper. Alright, that was loud. Alright, so you got your cross, everything's sanded nice. What I didn't mention before, on your cross, on your cross here you got these stripes. Now, the reason why it is 17 3/8. That's an important measurement because you're going to want, with this being 17 3/8, each one of these stripes is 1.5 inches, and you want it to come out even. You're going to have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 stripes. So the next step, what we're going to end up doing here, is to glue this together. And then when I glue it together, I usually like to leave it sit overnight so it's nice and tight, not loose. So what we're going to do is stick some glue in that. And we are going to let that dry. I always like to put enough glue in just to make sure everything's contacting. If you have glue squeezing out, you can just clean it up, but that should be alright like that. We got that glued. We're going to let that sit, and once that's dry, we're going to come back and do our stripes, our stars, stain it, and finish her up. Okay guys, back at the bench here. Got the cross all glued. Everything looks pretty nice. It's nice and tight here. The next thing we're going to do is put our stripes on. How I do that is, and you remember I said this board is a certain length because you need to get these stripes evened out. Each stripe is 1.5 inches wide. So all I do is I take this here board here, which is 1.5 inches wide. And I'm just going to lay it on here, and I'm just going to draw some lines here, 1.5 inches, line it up with the other line, and make some stripes across here. Now you won't see these pencil marks when we get done, but having that board that length will give you 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 even stripes. And then on this board right here, we're going to put a stripe right here in the middle. So what you're going to do is just line this board up on the edge, and you're just going to draw a line right here. And that's going to give you 2 stripes. It'll be red, white, red, white, red, white, red, white. Oh, white, red, white, red, white, red. Just like this one right here. The next thing I like to do, because this section right here, this corner section right here, like on the flag I got here, is going to be blue. So I just want to take a little bit of painter's tape here, and I'm just gonna put some tape. Well, let me see. Before we do that, we are gonna. This is something that, out of all the YouTube videos that I've watched, I have never seen anybody do this on a video. So what we're going to do, and I'm just going to put a line across here too. We're going to do, I got my wood burner here, and what I do is I just basically have a straight bit in there. I'm going to actually wood burn my stripes, and hopefully you can see this, but I'm actually going to wood burn my stripes. Now this is going to help when you go to stain these stripes. The stain is not going to bleed into the other part of the wood. So when you take this, because this wood burner actually burns a nice groove right in there. And I haven't seen anybody really do this, but I thought this really gives it a 3D look, and also keeps your stain from bleeding over into the other part of the wood. But if you don't have a wood burner, and I'm not no professional wood burner, I use it basically just to highlight some of the stuff on my projects, but I don't really do wood burning. I'm just going to do these stripes. Just to separate it. And it kind of gives it a neat look once it's done. It's got that rustic burn look. Now, something I forgot to do here, when you draw your lines across, you want to continue your lines. Hopefully you can see this, but you want to continue your lines on the edges of the board, because we're also going to burn these edges. So you just want to continue your lines down the edge. kind of hard to see, but I'm just drawing the lines, continuing them around the edge of the board, and then I'm going to wood burn them also. Okay, so we're just going to take this, and hopefully you can see this. Just going to continue that line off of there and do the same thing right there. And like I say, that'll just keep the, it'll keep the stain from bleeding over. Now, if you don't have a wood burner, like I said, you can just tape these off with painter's tape and do it that way. But I use a wood burner a lot with a lot of my projects, just to kind of give them a little highlight here and there. All right, I think we're done with that. So I got my stripes burnt in, and my this would be my white stripe and my red. Next thing we're going to do is take your masking tape or your painter's tape, and I like to tape off. Basically, I'm just taping it so when I go to stain, I don't get stain on this piece of wood right here, and this piece right here, and wrap it around. When I stain this blue, I don't want to get blue on this part right here, because this is going to be left natural. And I'm going to do the same thing over here. Hopefully you can see this, but just tape, kind of eye it up. I'm just taping it so I don't get tape on paint on this board right here. Basically what that's for. So that is that. Now, next thing we're going to do is we're going to stain this top all blue. Here's the one I did before. We're going to stain that all blue. It really don't take long to throw a stain on here. And depending on how you want it to look, you could wipe some of this stain off if you wanted to. I like it nice and dark. It just seems like when it's nice and dark, when I go to engrave the stars in it, they show up really nice. And the colors that I'm using are navy blue. This is a navy blue stain. That you can buy at pretty much any paint store or any place that sells stain or paint. Now when you stain and paint these, don't worry about getting paint or stain on the back of here. I mean, you don't want to get a whole bunch, but we're going to take care of that if you do get some on there. That's why I put that painter's tape right there, so I don't get too much paint or stain on that other board. And I'm just using I think it's a 3/4 inch, or I think it's a 1/2 inch artist brush. Works the best for this small work. Make sure you got it covered good. All right. So, and see, I got paint on the back, but don't worry about that because we're going to take care of that. So, we're done with the blue. Okay, we're done with the blue. We're going to do some red. Now, if you look on this here flag that I did, it starts out with the wood color and then every other one's red. So that's what we're going to do. But what you have to do next is take this tape off of here. Okay, so I pull the tape off. Now, one thing I do, I'm going to take my wood burn. The last thing I wood burn the line that right here, I don't know if you can see it, this line right here where the paint comes down, I'm just going to wood burn just that. That'll just give that little, it'll just clean that line up a little bit. Where the tape meant the paint. Okay, see that line? I just went in and covered up that where the paint met the other part of the cross. Okay, so now we're ready with the red. And we're gonna start with this red here. And the red, you gotta be a little careful, I guess, because you gotta stay out of these lines. But what's nice to have them burn lines in there is because it just helps for when you paint. You got something to go by. And We can always come back and touch it up with the wood burner if you wanted to. If you covered up a little bit of that wood burnt line, you could always come back and take the wood burner on there and touch it again. Okay, so we got this other one to do. And I can tell you, I am not normally the one that does this painting. I give my wife all the credit. She does all the sanding and painting on our projects. I'm doing it because I'm doing the video. But it's not something I normally do. I can do it. Okay, that one's done. 2 more to go here. And usually after we paint these, we'll this is pretty dry, fast drying stain, but so you could probably, this would probably be dry in an hour. Gets kind of tricky on the end here because normally when we do these, we will paint the blue first. We'll let that dry, and then we'll paint the red. But because I want to do this all in a video here, I'm painting it all at once here. Staining it. So, and we're almost done here. All right. I think we're done. So that is done as far as the painting goes. We can always go back, like I say, with the wood burner if you want to. We're going to let this dry. We'll come back when it's all dry, and we will do next couple steps to finish this cross up. Okay, guys, the last step, or the second to last step, is actually tracing the stars on here, and we're going to engrave them with a Dremel. I have these templates here. I got these on Amazon. I'll try to put a link in the description of getting these star templates for flags. This is an inch and an eighth across the stars, so that's the size of these stars. And you always want to make sure when you put these stars on, the point of the star is facing up. So I just basically lay this on here. I line up the corner right here, and then I'm just going to trace the stars on here. And just trace each one on there. Make sure you get it dark enough so you can see it. Nothing too fancy. We're going to engrave this out. Try not to forget any part of the star, because otherwise you got to go back and trace it. Now some of these stars go off the edge, so you're only going to be engraving part of the star. See, this right here has only got a little point on that one. And the same with this here. Okay, so we have all the stars traced. And if you can see right here, all the stars are traced. There's a little point right up in there, and not the full star, but we're going to engrave all of them out of there. So what I use is my Dremel, and I got this flex. Hopefully you can see it. I got this flex cable with my bit in there. Now, the only two bits I use basically for stars is it's a 107 and a 106. Now, a lot of times I'll use a 106. It's a small bit. I'll outline the star, and then I'll come back with a bigger bit and then take out all the stuff on the inside. But today we're just going to use the big bit and engrave these all at once. You want to be careful with this. Practice on this. If you have never done this before, practice on a piece of wood so you don't mess up your project. Hopefully you can see what I'm doing here. And what I'm going to do, I am going to put a new bit in here. Okay, I'm going to put a new bit in this Dremel, because you want to start out with a sharp bit, and I'm not sure exactly how long that bit was in there. So you want to start out with a fairly sharp bit. Helps a lot to have a sharp bit. Okay, we are back. Now we're going to Dremel these out. Okay, so I've got the stars carved out. Brush off all the little fuzzies there. Okay, so next thing we're going to do is we're going to take a torch. We're going to take a torch and burn these stripes here, because you can see on the one I made before, I burnt that edges and then I burnt the back. So let me grab I'll grab my torch. Okay, I just use a propane torch here, and we're gonna set it on a pan here so we don't burn anything up. And you just want to lightly torch this. And I'll start off right on the edges right here, just kind of lightly torch. Edges, just so you can see the grain, and the end right here. And you can torch the front part right here, just kind of lightly do that. And then what I like to do is just run the torch across these stars just a little bit, just to take the fuzzies off and just give it a little bit of a torch look. And then we're going to do the back. Okay, so that is pretty much your cross. We're pretty much done with the cross. We'll spray a sealer on it, make it look really shiny and nice. And then I'll put a scissors hook on the back like this. I got a scissors hook on the back of this one. We'll put a scissors hook right back here and spray it. And that should be pretty much done with your American flag cross. So it turned out pretty nice. We will do. All right, just to recap on what we did in this video. This is the flag cross that we did do. I did end up spraying it with a clear semi-gloss spray. Makes it nice and shiny. I would suggest, if you're going to make more than one of these crosses, to make a template like this, because it sure does help when you want to set up the width on your table saw. You can just put this in there and run it up to your fence. Also on your chop saw, you can set the length by just putting your stop here. You don't have to do a lot of measuring. Also, when you're doing your lap joint, you don't have to do a lot of measuring there. You can just put that up against your piece of wood and make your marks. So if you're going to make more than one of these crosses, a template is a great way to go. I got all my measurements written on this template, and I can just hang this in my shop, and I got it every time I want to make some crosses. Another thing I want to talk about, when you cut this lap joint right here, you want to make sure that once your cross is put together, you're pretty well flush right here. You might have to adjust your blade a little bit to get that So, and it might take a couple times. So once you get your blade adjusted right, you can make all the crosses you want, and it's going to sit nice and flush. The one we made on this video here has a little bit of a lip to it, not bad, but I could have adjusted my saw up a little bit to take a little more out, but you'll have to do that a couple times. As far as the stripes go, I use a wood burner to burn my stripes in. You don't have to do that. If you don't have a wood burner, you can use painter's tape and tape off your stripes and then just stain the red. Also, you don't have to leave this the wood color. You could paint this white and then red. And then also, this is all stained. You could actually use paint to paint this. You don't need to use stain. As far as the stars go, they're etched in with a Dremel. If you don't have a Dremel, you could actually buy some stars or cut some of your own stars and glue them on. Paint them white and glue them on. You could do that. There's a number of different ways you can do this. Just use your imagination on these crosses. So, but other than that, it did turn out really good. So I want you to hit that subscribe button and give me a thumbs up if you liked the video, and also ring that bell because I have a lot more videos coming out and I don't want you to miss them. So until then, we will see you next time on my next video.